Peace and love, brother Hassan. All right, so we're continuing where we left off in perfect matrimony. Once again, I'll stress this enough. We're gonna sharpen our tools, keep some concepts in the forefront. Uh, because we're not really around. Well, I try to be around more than a lot, but we're not in this setting 7 days a week. It's a lot of foolishness around there, around the world. A lot of low vibrational people. So uh, it's good to get these concepts, keep us sharp, so we can be that spark and be the light for the people. So the great battle,
Oh,
chapter 3.
sorry,
Somebody,
before you start, sir. My
okay.
bad. I would like to ask, an adept in just a pure adept, they're competent in law, history, and what other domains?
History, sciences. You can be adept in a lot of stuff. You know,
Okay.
you can be adept in law, history, the arts, dealing with frequencies. You could be a herbalist. You could be adept in a lot of things. And that's the key. That's the key in a society is to have people that know their nationality and culture and that have skill sets and we work together. You know, we got herbalists, we got people that know law, jurisprudence, we got musicians, we got farmers, truck drivers, right? If
Got it.
it's over. It's over. We're self-sustaining. That's sovereignty right there. It's action. It's a action. You're working with your people in real time in that fashion, getting stuff done. Um, did I answer every, how you feeling about that, Brian? Did I
Yeah, that answers it.
okay.
That answers it. That answers it.
So we on chapter 3, perfect matrimony reference. We're dealing with the great battle. Am I back now? I see they kicked me off.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you, Mom. Peace and love to everybody.
Peace and love,
Peace and
peace and love.
love.
Peace and love, brother, son. Yeah, you back, bro.
Peace and love.
Okay. Chapter 3, the great battle. In Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 8, it is written, Behold, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. Man and woman use sexual contact and the delights of love and kisses in order to become gods or demons. From the dawn of life, a great battle has existed between the powers of light and the powers of darkness. The secret root of that battle lies in sex. There is a correct interpretation of the mysteries of sex. White magicians never spill the semen. Black magicians always spill the semen. White magicians make the igneous serpent of our magical powers ascend through the medulla canal, the medulla. Black magicians make the snake descend towards the human being's atomic infernos. Gods and demons live in eternal struggle. Gods defend the doctrine of purity or chastity. Demons hate purity or chastity. The root of the conflict between gods and demons is found in sex. The great battle takes place in the astral light. The astral light is the reservoir of all past, present, and future forms of great nature. The astral light is the Azoth, or magnesia, of the ancient alchemists. Medea flying dragon, Krishna Inri, and the Bohemian tarot. The astral light is a terrible sexual fire emitted from the sun's nimbus and is fixed to the earth by force of gravity and weight of the atmosphere. The sun attracts and repels that enchanting and delightful light. The astral light is the lever of Archimedes, which was an old sage. Semen is man's astral liquid. The astral light is in the semen. Semen is the key to all powers and the key to all empires. In that sentence, when I read that sentence, Brother Hassan, the book is called The Perfect Matrimony. And the reason why this sentence stood out to me, semen is the key to all powers and the key to empires. You have to populate, right? There's no empire without human beings organized, right? There's no human beings if it ain't, embryos being made and coming out the womb. In that regard. It's simple, but it's fascinating. The astral light has two poles, one positive and the other negative. The ascending serpent is positive. The descending serpent is negative. When it ascends, it is the bronze serpent that healed the Israelites in the wilderness. Right? So the more science is going to get straight to the uncut of what these expressions in the holy books are talking about. So we can get straight to the principle of how we need to doctor ourselves. Know thyself. When it descends, it is the tempting serpent of Eden. So when you just, excuse my French, when you just, letting it squirt off and that's what's driving you and you a sex maniac, that's the descending serpent. When you using the sexual energy to let it charge you up to do great things on the earth plane, that's that Kundalini. That's that ascending serpent.
I like that. Sorry. I like that.
Wow, Islam.
Yes, sir. Islam.
Yo, this deep, Moff.
Yeah, man. More science. Self-mastery. So when we know how to adore and to kiss with infinite tenderness and supreme chastity or pureness, the serpent ascends. So the Moabites, the Empress, they're supposed to charge us up. They're not supposed to. That's what happens. That's just nature. It's going to charge you up if your mind is right. And you're using that to inspire you to do great things. It's not just to be shooting off, like, excuse my French, when we ardently enjoy lust and spill the cup, the serpent, inebriated with madness, precipitates itself towards the human being's atomic infernos. Both beings who adore each other dwell in the region of light. Souls who become inebriated with the chalice of lust and who, after getting drunk, spill the cup, live in the region of darkness. Those souls are consumed in the fire of their own lust. Earth is ruled by Christ and Jehovah, or Javeh, who live in eternal struggle. Christ is the leader of the God. Javeh is the chief of the demons. I'm going to stop right there because I think this is enough to reflect on and to use this in our everyday life. And once again, these are reference points from authors that aren't, like I always say, these aren't, this author of this book is not going to say I'm a Moor, right? But they're referencing ancient practices of ancient civilizations who were Moors, right? So we can use these things as tools when we're talking to the people, because they always like, oh, what's the Moor? What's the culture? What's the religion? We're going over one aspect of our practices. They call sex magic. And you want to have that ascending serpent or the descending, right? We want to use these energies to be a catalyst, to be a springboard to doing great things, going the clairvoyance, the genius thoughts, right? You heard when we opened up Divine Warning, what Noble Joe Ali said, we want genius citizens, right? If all the people in the community are trending toward working on their higher self, and nobody's perfect, but if that's the overall theme of the community, that means each brother and sister going to assist when we fall short. We got bonds of affection. It's a community. It's a brotherhood, a sisterhood. So, you know, this is an aspect of more science. This is an aspect of our culture.
So, I got a question. So, as well as the male have to try to hold it, the female has to too, right?
Sorry, one more time. I'm sorry.
What the passage you just read in the book, is that pertaining just to us males, or is it pertaining to both the male and the female?
Both. I think this example was given
Okay,
because
so being that we stuck in a matrix of what sex is, okay, I'm speaking for myself when I say this, all right? During that specific time, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's on your mind when you in the act is you know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily that, you know what I'm saying? So what are the steps that we need to take, you know what I'm saying, to get strong like that? Because I mean, it seemed like your mind has to be in a whole different aspect in the act instead of your mind being on the act when you're doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You anybody get where I'm coming from? Like
Yeah,
all my
yeah,
Yeah,
life
I think
since,
I agree.
you know, since I've been doing that in my life, in my mind when I'm committing the act, it's never been on that type of time. So I know it has to be some type of preparation. You can't just say to yourself, like, okay, you know, I'm just gonna just try to do this what my sheik told me to do. And then when you get in the act, you know what I'm saying? Your mind is on the feeling, your mind is on, you know, everything that's going on at that present time. How can I prepare myself to do that? Like, I need help with that. Like at the end of the day, I'm not even gonna hold you. I need help with that. So
I
what
got a
am I supposed?
suggestion.
What's up?
I got a suggestion, right? Your
Go
breathing,
ahead, Sheik. I'm listening.
practicing your breathing, putting conscious effort on how is my inhale and exhale? Because sometimes we just doing it on automatic. We're not really listening to our breathing like that, right? So get to the point where you consciously making deep breaths to your core, like a deep inhale, right? And meditation. I figure once you do that
Mm.
for a week or two, now do that during the act. While you're in the act, don't your blood boiling, your heart rate getting, everything just calm down and
What?
have that same set of, you know what I mean? And that's gonna help you. It's gonna help you.
Okay, so am I wrong if I want to like kind of stop it, period, just to get my mind to where I need to be and then try it once I get my mind right? Is that bad to do that?
I think that's on individual base, but the whole thing is you don't want to spill the cup, quote unquote. You don't want your cup to spill. right? That's what the author says. So as long as your cup not spilling, you can do the act. Just don't spill the cup.
I if I could chime in, I heard this trick from this old guy. He said, inhale as deep as you can, try to count to 9, like the top of your crown. If you can do that 3 times, I guess it'll recenter yourself, clear your mind. That's through anger or excitement. It's just a trick I learned, and it actually works, especially coming from a hothead. I'm talking about me personally. So take a deep breath, inhale, count to 9 full seconds. That should recenter yourself. Do that 3 times in a row. When you're in a situation where you feel like you're about to lose control. Excuse me. But yeah, that should work, or at least help for anybody. That's
And then in my case, you know what I'm saying, it's not gonna be that. Even if I can kind of master that, like
yeah,
my wife, on the other hand, like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to, be going into detail, but sometimes it just don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta like really talk to my wife too, because it has to be a breathing exercise for both of us. You know what I'm saying? Because with Mafi just read that resonates with me so much. And but we so caught I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the world. I was so caught up in what I thought sex meant that it's gonna be hard to moonwalk and reverse it and come back again, reset. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm coming from with that. You know what I mean?
yes, sir.
But I
Yeah.
yield the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Then that's the test. That these tests, it's gonna make you a better person, When if we can be the magi and figure out how to make it work. But yeah. Um anybody else had any thoughts on this space for our transition?
I said about breathing technique. I found the Iceman breathing techniques. I was a guy that lost his like wife, and he found peace in like getting in cold water, and he has these techniques while you then breathe in cold water that help with like breathing well. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're about to fight or something like that adrenaline. You know what I mean? You just control your breath at the end of the day. That's all breath work. So when you're in the bedroom, it's kind of like an intimate fight. You know what I mean? Like you said, your heart boiling, blah blah blah. Your body don't really know what you're doing. All it knows it just needs to pump blood in certain places. And when it's pumping blood, just make sure you got the proper oxygen, going through that. I get the floor. But the Iceman breathing techniques, like you has a technique for you and your wife or anybody want to do it. When I heard you say like technique, you and your wife can actually go through that. Maybe like 8 minutes or something like that, not too long. But that helped me, you know what I mean? Like I would say not a former, like a hothead, whatever. But I got Mars rising, so I be like anxious and stuff a lot too. So I kind of act before I think a lot, you know. Bad
Yeah.
or good, so that helps me a good bit. But I yield the floor.
Wow.
My question would be about the astral light and the key to empire. He said that Archimedes said that give him a fulcrum and a lever and he can move the world. How is astral light able to do that? Because the closest thing I can think about an experience that could be similar to astral light would be like maybe like imagination. So could you clarify a little bit on that if you could? Like
Oh
what do you
yeah.
mean by the key to empires and the astral light?
Well, because the astral light is in the semen. It we when we secrete, we're acting as a medium, as a conduit, to put in another, body, and 3 trimesters later, the soul of man is being built, and here comes a physical form, right? 9 months. So
Hmm.
empires are a product of human beings working together, organized. it would be no human beings if it wasn't for the semen, the egg magnetizing and causing the process of the three trimesters. There's no empires if that process doesn't happen, right? So, you know, that makes sense.
Yeah, that goes back to, if I can chime in, to humanity written on her womb. You know, that's the empire right there. You know what I mean? So we control where, you know, we put our, you know, astral force. You know what I mean? We can build great empires and not just pour it out loosely. You know what I mean? And create families that aren't really families, you know, or empires that aren't actually empires. You know what I mean? It's
So
fundamentally
basically, what
So that mean,
I'm trying to
when
get
you,
at is that, like you said, genius thoughts. So basically, that whole transition where you're transitioning from your excitement to your release, if you reverse the process and you're, oh my God, okay, yeah, I see it. I see it.
so it's like, can I ask, like, so it's like, boom, if you in the act and you create a seed off the lower um serpent, then your seed gonna bring forth that fruit when it come into the land. It's gonna be on a lower vibration. But if you practice what Mafi's saying, you know what I'm saying, and you put a seed in a queen, that seed gonna come out as a genius seed.
oh,
Ooh,
wow.
I get it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking that's what it is. That's what it is, Maf.
Yeah, the percentages
yeah,
is set up higher, but
Yeah, there you go.
you can
The
still
percentage
circumvent.
is set up high.
Yeah, but you can still
yeah.
rise
Oh.
above. You can rise above if you
Yes.
utilize the tools. You know, let me greet everybody 1 second. That came in: Hanuna, Matazamaji, Bay, L, Matazamaji L, who Cali exclusive.
Uh,
Peace, Morris.
Love and peace,
Love,
Lord.
right?
Yeah.
Love.
would you say that, like, that light that I forget what the brother, I think it was Brandon, was speaking on, would you say like that light is like also connected to like our well, I think would be have to like our spiritual senses, or what some people might even say like your third eye or something like that? Like, do you see that as highly connected with it all as well? Like, especially when you're talking about the light.
Yeah, I do. Because now that Brian brought that up, I see you looking at it in a micro level. The empire is the macro, but the micro is in the act, refraining from spilling the cup. Now the serpent is in the medulla, like the author said, right? And now we having a genius thoughts that the prophet was talking about. Me are genius citizens, because the genius citizens is having genius thoughts because all the citizens in the community is I self law master practicers, right? Everybody's seeking to the best of their ability to ascend, right? So now we have a community. So it's a couple layers to it, you know. And that's why we just discussing this, invoking thought, and just going over it, we're more inclined to consciously try to use these practices, right? You know, and it's more science. This is what we're here to know the culture and try to best of our abilities act as if we have the culture, practice it, you know, in real time. So,
Right.
yeah, you know, and now and oh, some of these we also read some of these Bible parables that this author brought to the front, right? Now we get what it means. You know, we talking about the Garden of Eden is not to look so literal. These are principles, right? Or the snake, or the serpent. The snake's not bad, right? Because the the snake ascending is not bad, right? It's the snake descending is what's bad, right? So, being it once again, just the dojo, we also ambassadors. We're not only trying to learn individually more science, everything as it entails, but we're moving as a community, a body politic, and that's what this is about. Is to be a sharp ambassador to talk with the people about any type of space that we talk about, because they're gonna have questions in this space: religion, holy books, this, that, and you wanna demystify the Bible, Quran, any type of holy book for unification purposes, right? Because let's face it, that's why people are going to be combative. It's going to be behind either religion, pretty much religion, in a false sense of history, how history went down, right? So we need to clear this up for these people, our people in general. Let's do one more round for thoughts about this space before we transition to the next aspect of the demonstration. I brought up something last week talking about Abraham Lincoln. Most of us, most, more that have been studying are familiar with Abraham Lincoln, how he was a lawyer before he was a president, William Dungy case, right? I want to go into that a little more. I talked about it a little bit last week. Let's go into that more in depth on why that matters as far as political status, case law reference, res judicata, things on the books that were ruled upon dealing with political status of Moors and how that is a nationality of people and how we are not Black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Latino, Puerto Rican, Indian. There's things on the books that we could show the people that were ruled upon in court. That takes away the back and forth of, so let's have our head on a swivel as an ambassador for our nation state, right? We want to be good representatives, knowledgeable, genius citizens, like the prophet was talking about in the divine warning. So in 1851, before becoming president, good old Abe Lincoln was a lawyer. Reference case law in the William Dungy versus Joseph Spencer slander case. That's a reference where William Dungy, a Moor, was being publicly shamed, being called black and a nigger, which at the time was a crime to be black. It really still is. In the case, Abraham argued that William was not a nigger, but a Moor. So Abraham Lincoln, before he was a president, was a bar member, and the bar member said, he's a Moor. We'll get into that. We'll get into that later. We'll get into that. Let me continue. In the Abraham case, that William was not a nigger but a Moor, thus correcting his national status. Status correction. As black is a color, and in Spanish, nigger means black. In law, colored means something artificial and fake, which places one in a civiliter mortu status. That's Moorish Latin for civilly dead in the eyes of the law, meaning civilly dead. By arguing that William is a Moor, he is reconnecting him with the nationality, which establishes his political status and enforces international law, like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, etc., rights of indigenous people, etc. In the end, William Dungy won the case and was awarded $600 in damages. What was the quote on the transcripts of this case? What was Lincoln on record saying? My client is not a Negro, though it is a crime to be a Negro, no crime to be born with the black skin. But my client is not a Negro. His skin may not be as white as ours, but I say he is not a Negro, though he may be a Moor. So this is documented in case law. Our nationality, we're not black, Negro, color. It's also on the record. It said it's a crime to identify as labels that the foreigner gave you and be proud and boisterous about, and have an ego about it. That's a crime. The world doesn't recognize when you identify with your oppressor, the labels your oppressor gave you. They don't, there's no unity in that. Nope, we filling up the jails. We just want to do nothing, right? So that's on the record. We need to know that this is on the record. Why do we need to know what's on the record? Because you may be in court one day, asserting your political status on who you are and are not, what's on the books and what's not. So you can put the checks and balances of what's in front of you, right? So you can change the jurisdiction of the venue. Mr. Lincoln, interrupted Judge Davis, scarcely able to restrain a smile. You mean a Moore, not a Moore? Well, Your Honor, Moore, not C.H. Moore, replied Mr. Lincoln with the sweep of his long arm towards the table where Moore and I sat. I say my client may be a Moor, but he is not a Negro. So they was even doing a song and dance right back then, 1860s. The judge playing games like trying to play games back then. The judge not playing games today. They were playing them back then too. Right? Lincoln had to say, come on, man, he's a Moor. Oh, okay. That's why they assassinated Lincoln later in the game. You know, he on record. You know, that's another conversation. So in the movie Abraham Lincoln, vampire hunter, the character Will, is a representation of William Dungy, the Moor, who throughout the movie helps Abraham Lincoln. As a child in the movie, Lincoln shielded Will with his own body to prevent him from being whipped. Also in the movie, with the train full of silver crashing and burning, it represents the bankruptcy of the first corporate United States registered in France by Benjamin Franklin in 1754. That the group of individuals responsible for the overthrow of the Republican form of government in 1861 were operating on. Also in the movie, Abraham mentions how he is trying to make it the land of the living as opposed to the land of the dead. This is in relation to the Emancipation Proclamation, the 13th Amendment with 20 sections, as well as the unconstitutional 14th Amendment. Back to the divine warning, what Noble Ali say? The 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of our people. So, because it was unconstitutional. It was already here. We don't need the 14th Amendment, United States citizen clause. We've been here before it was the 13 colonies, before it was Jamestown. Our people were here with a sultan, emperor, clans, Taj Mahal style buildings that they blew up and called Area 51. I tried their best to blow up. Right. So why would we already have citizenship? And if you look at any international law document, your nationality determines your citizenship. It's that simple. If you have a nationality, that's your citizen. Unless you're not working with your people in an organized manner, then you get deemed stateless. Ward of the state, Jim Crow, shadow property, all because of the actions that you're displaying amongst your own people. You don't work with your people. Animosity, hate. You don't want to do business with them. Everybody else doing business with each other. Everybody else know their culture. Oh, Area 51. So Area 51, they're gonna tag these areas where you pretty much can't go. They're gonna mystify it like it's some aliens or something. But most of the time it's just displaying architecture that we done built before the Atlantic slave trade. Because remember, usually you was a slave. So they can't really let that be public, that it's pyramid complexes, mummies, all through the Grand Canyon. These are things that they talking about that look like, oh, that's Egypt. This is Egypt. They want to make you think over there. They don't want you thinking, oh, over here is really Nefertiti and all these ancient Egyptian empresses. That's before the Pale Arab in the Middle East. That's before that. So what Egypt are we talking about? That's why they call it Area 51. So that John D. Rockefeller General Education Board stuff that you was taught about your history, they can perpetuate that. That's Area 51. So I mentioned the 13th Amendment with 20 sections. In that section, it's stuff in there saying Africans can't even be United States citizens. If you have an African lineage, you can't even be a U.S. citizen. So, so although created after Lincoln's death, it institutionalized peonage, misrepresented as slavery, and transferred ownership of slaves to the corporate state. The 14th Amendment represents the dead or corporation corpse. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the Republic, although by law, a member of the Bar Association could not be president. The Congress ran him on the 1754 corporate United States, feigning as the United States Union. 1861, the coup d'etat. Coup d'etat is a sudden overthrow of an existing government. So here's the transition from the republic to the democracy. In secret, it's an overthrow. So that a coup d'etat is essentially there's a head or a face of the government. He's still the head, but behind the scenes, he's been infiltrated by a foreigner. And all of a sudden, the policies are starting to change. But the people and the citizens of the government is looking like, oh, it's still my people. But they don't know he done sold out to the EU, the British, the French, whoever. That's called a coup d'etat. So in secret, it went from republic to democracy in secret. Now it's just a company, a corporation that's doing a DBA, Congress, president. That's the DBA of the corporation, the positions. They still got board members, they still got everything right, but they're doing business names as government titles. So the people is looking at them, oh, okay, it's still the same show. All right, so 1862, Civil War. The gangs in New York that we talked about last week became the police department in 1862. All these things are popping off, right? Emancipation Proclamation around the same time. 13th Amendment with its original 20 sections. The 13th Amendment and its 20 section was debated from March 31st, 1864 to April 9th, 1864. And that's a congressional globe once again. And the reason why that 13th Amendment is important because it's saying if you have African descent, you cannot be a U.S. citizen. So Lincoln established the Bureau for Refugees and Abandoned Lands and Freedmen, also known as the Freedmen's Bureau, established to help restore the estate of the fallen Moors placed in bondage and stripped of our nationality. Provisions were set up for where every man, woman, and child could have 40 acres returned to them and a mule, and enough finance to support and develop the lands and any businesses, housing, and restoration of indigenous communities. Jus prolimity. Jus prolimity is a Latin law word meaning you get to be restored to the place you were when you were competent. If you learn this information, oh man, I got illustrious culture. Everybody, all our people that think they black, Negro, color, Latino, so let's say Compton and Watts, just wake up tomorrow and all start working together. That's just prolimity. If they start working together in real time, infrastructure, setting up a trust, got a structure where they, like looking like Chinatown, Koreatown, the same, nothing new. We just do that. Just prolimity. Now we can go to City Hall with an intelligent tone. Rights of indigenous people say, oh, any unincorporated areas, it's deemed, you could take that over for temple, businesses, get a community going and infrastructure for the benefit of our people. That's pursuant to the rights of indigenous people. The United States is a member of the Organization of American States. This is international in scope, right? Not only the United Nations rights of indigenous people, but right. So just prolimity, right? Thorough demonstration on just prolimity. So this is what Lincoln established as our people were getting rocked to sleep, identifying by brand names that allude to slavery. It was for people that weren't under that paradigm. And like we talked about, the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790 was an example of our people that knew their culture and was like, look, we're not under the Black Negro, Jim Crow, Christian Black codes. We're not under that. We know our culture. We know it was a sultan here. And then it was ruled upon in the South Carolina congressional records that, yeah, that's the fact. They're not subject to the law of the corporate state. They've been here. These is nationals on their own land. And they know it. They're not buying it that they got shit from Africa. They know their illustrious culture. They're not going for it. It was ruled upon, just like we looked at the William Dingy case, it was ruled upon about who the Moors are. Brian got in the chat, copper corresponding to Venus with Abe on it. Yeah, right, the copper penny. Lincoln is on the copper penny. He's the only president facing that direction. The way his head is facing is the only president facing that way. And he's got the copper penny because they call him a mulatto, but it's a book where he dressed up in Moorish garb. And they hated that, they hated him because, they did their best to destroy all this information. Why is you representing Moors and letting them know who they are and all this type of stuff? So they had to get rid of him. They're trying to bury this information. So Lincoln gets assassinated for constantly opposing the Inquisition. What's the Inquisition? When you look up the Spanish Inquisition, that's when the Pope is sending out orders to their military to go conquer and attempt to deroot the indigenous people, separate them from the women and children, so the children don't know their culture after a couple years, force them to turn Catholic. Anything outside of Catholicism was looked at as an unbeliever, a Saracen, a heathen, the devil. And that justified them trying to go to war with our people and deroot them. So Lincoln was going against that, the Inquisition, the Christian Crusades. Lincoln went with that. They had to get rid of Lincoln. So that's a little background because most people go, oh, most people know he got assassinated, but why they kill that man? Why they really kill that man like that? 13th Amendment is revealed with only 2 sections. So remember them 20 sections that was in the 13th Amendment? No. They got rid of that. Why? Because once again, in the 20 sections, section 12 is gonna say, if you were descendant of if you were descendant of Africa or you got melanated skin, you can't be a citizen of this European Union because your nationality determines your citizenship. International law says you can't be a U.S. citizen. You have a nationality, right? So they had to get rid of that and blur the lines. And here comes the 14th Amendment where, oh yeah, you can be a U.S. citizen in the corporate war capacity because you're doing it voluntarily with dishonor, right? If you do it voluntarily, hey, that's on you. You want to be a 14th Amendment, you want a Civil Rights Act and Black Lives Matter and I'm Black and I'm proud and I want to be accepted. I want to go to the white bathrooms and why I can't go to the white bathroom? I should be able to go into white businesses. We had our own stuff. Why are you caring about Chinatown, Koreatown? They ain't tripping on going to the Walmart bathroom. They got their own grocery stores. They go to their own grocery store bathroom. Why you want to be segregated? What? Right. And then here come the black leaders that the CIA operatives, the boule they put in front of us. Oh man. All this segregation. No, we deserve to be treated equal. We should be able to go to the rich areas and all that too. Oh man. All right, so let's keep going. 1866, the KKK founded. 1866, Andrew Jackson voted the Freedmen's Bureau. The 14th Amendment created 1868. The First Vatican Council was created 1868. This is no accident. Let me check the chat. It makes sense why that is taught. Exactly. John D. Rockefeller School System, General Education Board, make the people docile. Make them not know their history. Make them buy into what we tell them their history is. Right? So the First Vatican is created The Freedmen's Bureau had almost no finance, right? Because nobody knew about it. They killed Lincoln. They buried that the Freedmen's Bureau even exists, which was a program to help prisoners of war, Moors that knew their nationality and culture and was willing to still work together and were just outgunned and traitors amongst us, and things happen. It was a Freedmen's Bureau was to help us get back on our feet. They buried that even existed after they killed Lincoln, right? So the Naturalization Act of July 14th, 1870, Europeans are now counted and referred to as white. Before this, nobody was calling them white. Why? Because that's a political status. White and black are political status. Aboriginal and indigenous to the land, a status is white. It has nothing to do with skin complexion. For example, the Pilgrims that came over here, the Irish that came over here in the 1600s, the Slavs, their political status was black, even though they had had blonde hair and blue eyes and were pale. Their status was black. There's multiple books talking about the Slavs that were over here. So yes, the slave trade did exist, but it was the Irish, Dutch, the French Slavs. All right, so we need to know this. We need to know this information. So now all of a sudden, their blonde hair, blue eyed people are referred to as white. And the people of the land are referred to as black now. Because, right, the school system, the Indian schools, right? They're teaching our people we Negroes and Indians. Well, I think it was Indians. And then it was Negroes. Then it was the black and the African American. All these things are not Moors, right? So that was the whole point. So the official seat of government was moved from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. The Act of Congress 1871, also known as the Reconstruction Era, the great book burnings and all this type of stuff taking place, right? To get any crumb of Moor, try their best to get any remnants of Moorish culture out of there, right? Where the European democracy, inquisitioners, so democracy is associated with the Inquisition. And the Inquisition is a directive by the Pope to conquer indigenous people, convert their lands. And then when you're successful doing that, send 10% of the spoils of war back to the Vatican or the Pope or the Roman Emperor. So tithing is
why
a...
Oh my bad.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Is that why when I know it's a joke, but whenever they say like, oh, they found oil in whatever indigenous land, they'll be like, oh, democracy's coming, and then they make that eagle noise. It's really
Exactly.
a reference to something real. Like
Inquisition, yep. They found a natural resource that they want to control. So to not look like some gangsters, and they're gonna be like, oh, these people are communist terrorists, they radicals, and they're gonna
let's go spread
create,
some democracy.
yeah, they're gonna create terrorist groups that are US farm raised, send them out
Right,
there.
right.
ISIS, Al Qaeda, all these are US farm raised institution planted to make the people in the North America think these areas in the East is terrible over there. They're gonna try to blow up something.
All right.
And the CIA created it. Right? They're
And
playing
then
both sides. Yeah.
a follow-up question would be like, the corporation that's established after the Reconstruction era, are they beholden to the Vatican, right? Because that's who issues the papal bull, the Inquisition orders, right?
Right.
So the
Right.
Pope is really the mastermind.
Right. Right. For
Damn.
the
Yeah,
corporation of the United States. Yep.
right.
That's
Yeah,
their boss.
it goes
So
all
the
back
Pope
to
is like the I wouldn't say use a term like that, but he pretty much the anti.
pretty much. This also goes back to Unum Sanctum,
Pretty much.
Pope Boniface.
Yeah,
Boniface.
the papal bull. Yeah,
Yeah,
Boniface.
yeah, yeah. It goes back to him. So that's 1302. So Una Sanctum has been in place since then.
1302.
And he said unum sanctum. He's unum
Two
sanctum,
1302.
but unum sanctum is a papal bull, like I said earlier. The Spanish Inquisition. The brother just said unum sanctum. These are papal bulls in different time period, but that's all the same play. If you're successful in defeating the Aboriginal people in a certain area and you happen to win the war, you're able to take over, convert them Catholic,
Doctrine.
send all the riches of the land back, 10% of that back to us. That's called tithing. That's called tithing, by the way.
Right. Oh my. Oh, then even the UK, like if you look at the UK, for example, even when the way they ran the empire, when they had one, they would conquer the indigenous and send all of it to the crown, and the crown is beholden to the Pope.
Exactly.
Right. There you
Exactly.
go.
There you go.
That
He's
that
right
that
there.
all formed.
There you go.
Yeah, that all formed what is called that was called the Holy Alliance. That's where that originated from. Now that started in 1213 when the king went to the Vatican. The Pope made a deal with him and made every subject in his kingdom underneath the Pope, and turned everybody into vassals. Okay, turned everyone into vassals, and that's where feudal law began. Excuse me, feudal law. And that's where
So,
people began losing their allodial titles and everything to their property and so forth. But the king still had title over everyone. He ransomed it over to the. So this is how this is all come down to today. Your divine
so it's full
inheritance.
circle because even if you look at it, the only ancient structure that survived to this day is the Vatican. All of the old world structures like institutions don't really exist no more. The Ottoman Empire fell.
Well. Actually, that's what all the world wars was all about, was between the Romans and the Moorish Empire. There's only been two, like CM Bay said. There's only been two empires in the world: the Moorish Empire and the Roman Empire that we're currently living under. Those are the two only empires that ever existed. And all other wars, as you mentioned, they eliminated the Turkish, the Turk Ottoman. They eliminated them. They eliminated the Moorish Empire. They weakened it. They went around the world, and their fight was against the Moorish Empire. And that's the reason why, as Mafi was explaining, how our history is whitewashed and covered up. This is deliberate. This is intentional. So we can never reconnect and memorize who we are.
This is insane.
It's evil, man. It's wicked. It's the most wicked and most deplorable play on on human beings that you can ever think of, man. It's insidious, man.
Because they prop up the Pope like some
Well, yeah.
virtuous monk scholar.
No, man. That's all. That's all the
Yeah, that's
that's
false.
all the cover
False
up, man.
pretenses.
That's crazy. He's really an evil wizard.
Even I was going to college up north, and they had us do like family tree, like find our history. You feel me, and like update it, talk about it in our essays. All the black kids in the class, majority of them could only go back to about 1920. Like it stopped there. We couldn't find anything past that. Nobody could. And even the teacher in psychology, she's like, yeah, like your guys' history's been cut off. She's a Native American. Her last name was Flies with Hawk. So she's super native. So she knows what time it is. You know what I mean? But yeah, they've been cutting our history off. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And just like we're talking about the sex magic, how it's supposed to really charge you up, knowing this information is supposed to set a proper fire under you where we create bodies like this. Get competent so we can get the info out so we can unite the people, start doing business in real time, and help you have a brotherhood. It's essentially humility, right? No, you want to deal with your brother and your sister with honor, so use this to charge us up. Use this to charge us up and inspire the unification. You know, everybody on here right now, you know, let's aim to build a rapport, a cohesive unit, and get sharp, you know, because eventually it's time to start doing business. There's 14 people on here. It's time for all of us to start doing business at some point, you know, pooling our money together and thinking and doing some great things.
Well, they said the Roman Empire was founded by Romulus and Remus, and that's only two brothers. So we got plenty, technically.
Yeah, right. Um, Anybody else have any thoughts on this space before I transition to the next aspect of the demonstration? Commentary, thoughts, questions? Okay. And what I'm transitioning to, your brothers kind of started to talk about it, but let's go. That means it's divine, right? So the word Muslim, you're gonna hear these things from different authors. It's synonymous with more. This is one of the important things to know in doing your research. They will, in fact, use the word more, and then in the same, sometimes sentence, certainly, paragraph, they will use the term Muslim, just as they use the word Christian and Crusader, which are also the same. This is true and indicative throughout older writings, and it is most necessary to know, along with many other names for Moors, such as Ottomans, right? The brother brought up Ottomans, those are just Moors. Turk, those are just Moors. Almoravides, the Moors that went into so-called Spain or Al-Andalus at that time, Moors. The Almohads, Moors. The Saracens, what the Romans called our people, those is Moors, because we came from the line of Sarah, and that's where you get the Sufi mystic. But that's a whole nother demonstration. Saracens, right? Proven fact. Moors' heritage and history goes back as far as, but not limited to, Frisian, Germany, right? The Moors, so the original Germans, Moors. Original quote unquote Europeans, Moors. The Moor's head appears on the Pope coat of arms. We're talking about the Pope, right? So the Pope's coat of arms has a Moor's head. This the Pope right here. Let me finish reading this. We'll look into that image.
What the hell?
But this is we'll get into that once. Let me finish this paragraph, right? So as well, it is cut into the lawn as St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Anytime you see in the writings possibly ancient, you can be assured there may not be much said because in the modern man integrated into the human boutique, it is not ancient. Thus, he either doesn't know or doesn't want to tell because he may not want you to know, as he has been in the past. However, in the recent and now, truth of information is flowing freely, right? Because this is the Aquarian age. So information is going to run free no matter how much they try to stop it. You can't stop nature. The truth is meant to shine right now in this Aquarian age because this is the unstoppable age of information or the age of knowing. The energy which is described to you in the sign of Aquarius, the humanitarian, of which the time is now to bring the people back into the human family. Unity and concerns of humanity are bound. Now let's look at the Pope's coat of arms. Let's look at this. Let's analyze the Pope's coat of arms. So we got more heads. Because why? Because the Pope knows the original Sicilians, the original anything come from the Moor, the melanated Moor. Right? Peace and love. Somebody, 9L, peace and love. I think I think I greeted everybody. So the Pope knows, you know, the lineage. So the Moor's head is an heraldic charge associated with Frenzing, Germany. The origin of the Moor's head, or in Latin, capat ethopicum, is Frissing and not entirely known, typically facing to the viewer's left. It appears on the coat of arms of the old Principality of Frissing as early as 1316. So 1300s, Moors was, that's all you're going to see is melanated people in these areas. While there are several variations on Moor's heads in heraldry, the one used by Freising and adopted by Benedict, did somebody talk about that Pope? Um, that benefit the 16th is always crowned and collared. Generally, in this form, the lips, crown, the collar are always red, while the face and hair are brown and the eyes white. If an earring is shown, it is shown in gold. All right, so these are standard Moorhead figures. And once again, this is the Pope's coat of arms. Today, when you go to the Vatican today, that's you go over from an aerial view, you're going to see this on the lawn today. The Moorhead at the lawn of the Vatican today. If they went so far as to do this with their lawn, they're paying homage clearly to what they know to be the truth. Okay. Look, here's the Pope.
Little demon. Oh my god.
Look at this. Come on, man. This is our stuff. And look at this. See these keys right here?
I was gonna ask about that. What does the keys mean?
The land of milk and honey. This is the
Wow.
What
substance
about
that this flows up the back to the medulla oblongata. Why when we get to the intricacies of that fluid of that serpent that's traveling up the spine, it's really two veins. That's a sappy substance that's white, and a sappy substance that look like more like tree sap, and that's going up the back to the medulla. That's the process before the pineal gland pop. So that symmetry is in the Moorhead, right? Because we practice ascension, right? Kundalini ascension. That was more science. So you need to spot the culture. This is your culture. How I'm spotting this, you need to explain that to the people. Because when you explain it like that, they're gonna feel the truth and sincerity because they probably heard aspects of what I said before, but they didn't hear the full spectrum. So sometimes people need to hear it like that, you know? So it's your job to be competent to upload this in your mind to even tell them that, right? So
yeah?
study, right?
What about that
Um,
top part? That hat that he's wearing that's on top of the, you know, like that symbolizes the same hat that's on top of what's that? The
The
emblem that
fish
we're
hat?
looking at? Yeah, the fish hat. Exactly. I've been told.
What is that referencing to?
Yeah, I
The
was
fish
told
hat.
that represents like a fish god. Like they pretty much got them
this
worshiping a
is
false god in the
yeah,
Catholic Church. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's heard that, but I was told by somebody who's
I've heard of that too, that they're worshiping like Marduk or
yeah,
some like old god.
yeah. So it's
And he's like a false one that's I don't
yeah.
know for sure, but
That's why the hat looks like the mouth of a fish, something like that. I don't know if
but
you
that's
know anything about that.
yeah, well, symbolically, I don't know if y'all seen, they got the fish and then they have the shape of the vagina, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So all life comes through the womb.
oh,
Mm,
the Vesca Pisces, that's what they're doing, right?
Right.
Yeah,
mm.
yeah, yeah,
You got something, L? I
yeah.
feel like you're finna chime in. You finna say something? L?
Oh no, I was just agreeing with everybody. I've heard that they've reached like a
What's
fall.
up with what's up with the scallop shell on the seal? What's that represent? And the bear, what does that represent?
I know from my research, the bear was associated with the griffin, what they call the griffins. That's why the bear is in the flag of California, um, the Khalifa territory, and they
It
loosely
looked like he
refer
got
to her as a griffin. But that's my knowledge on the bear.
Yeah, I was gonna say when it boils down to it, you know, the when it comes down to it through history throughout history, their main goal when they took power and they started seizing power around the world was the transliteration, the book burning, destroying the scripts and artifacts, and then rewrite her history into his history, right? And This is all done because if they didn't, it would expose every aspect, every weakness that they are never were and never have been. So this is the reason why her story is now his story. In other words, history. You know what I'm saying? So it's just all a culmination of once again the transliteration and the book burnings and everything else that they did throughout history. You know, I yield the floor.
Wow. So here sits the Pope who came to New York, the Empire State, and sat under the Moor head, while those who are descendants of Moors debate as to the impacting validity of the Moors of their direct ancestors. So we arguing about, you're not a Moor, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, whatever the case, whatever religion. I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. This is my God. That Moorish stuff is the devil. We arguing over stuff, silly stuff like that, when the whole world know our nationality and culture and paying homage to it. And feeding like a vampire off of us. Feeding. All right. So this
Literally,
is
the world feeds off of us.
feeds off of
Literally,
us.
literally,
Think
down
about
to our land. To oh my God,
and we the talent. NBA,
my head
NFL,
hurts.
NBA, NFL, they come to see us. They come to see the talent. Imagine if we started our own league. The people coming to see
Even
the
the
talent.
cobalt to make the iPhones, they feed off of us to make the modern world. Still,
Right. So here we have it. It's supposed to inspire us, right? Um, so one can resist this, however, upon a real challenge, which means study. Those who try to prove facts wrong will find that they are proving them to be correct. Their personal acceptance is based on their willingness to take responsibility and recognize their obligation. This is important for the future of the bloodline, as the children will be left to fend for themselves without the benefit of truth of self. How can one stand as a man or woman or womb man without knowing who they are and knowing the blood of their ancestors that continues and will continue to run through them, which makes up who they are?
wow.
It is best advised that we know these things and stop the attempts to discredit our forefathers and fathers, thus take our place amongst the affairs of men. They worship the Black Madonna, quote unquote. Connotatively, they call her the Black Madonna, but that's the Great Mobitis, right? So they praise, why? Because original woman set off humanity. That's their ancestors. They got to pay homage to even their existence, right? So it's not a secret. Not a secret. And the positions of the Catholic Church, they got cardinals, they got deacons, right? So these is all, they know astrology, they know cosmology, right? Cardinal signs,
Wow, I didn't
deacons,
even
right?
think of it that way.
Yeah.
The degrees and then the corners, the cornerstones. Wow, and then wow, okay.
Yeah, that's the whole concept of study, study, study. They've been studying us, man.
Wow.
To me it's been like gene warfare this whole time. And it's just like once they realized how they was created, they were like, shit, I need to study what created me. Got to a point to where they just like, hey, we need to put it down on them and get them lost at the same time. Whereas like we still directly feeding off of them while we trying to bring ourselves up into the same world, but still paying homage to how we came here, but simultaneously not paying to the current respect as it goes throughout time because they know it exists.
Yeah. And look at this more, look at some more of this Moorish culture. Look, see these candles?
Yeah.
It's seven candles.
But it's not their
But
job to tell us because they know.
look, look at the seventh candle.
Says a bliss, yeah.
It's lit up, right? So we got 7 main chakras once we ascend, and that pineal gland pop, right? So it's symbolism, right? Talking about the ascension of man now. This is a world culture,
My
right?
bad, brother. What's her name? The lady they're worshiping or giving homage to?
Or they commercially call her the Black Madonna.
Okay. What's her
I've
actual
read that.
name?
Oh my bad. My bad.
What's her actual name though?
The Great Mobitus.
The Great Mobitus. Thank you, sir.
Even Krishna, like if you look at like the Krishna, the first like Krishna, he's like pure black. Like his I know this is a reference. The Great Mobitus is like the Great Mother, and like the what is it? The same motif of like how Jesus is, under Mary. It's the same sort of motif. But even Krishna, they show him in the original depictions as completely black skinned. It's only later they moved them towards more blue so that, people won't be like, hey, don't that look like me?
See how this stuff pop out? The farther we get into this, you're gonna see all the symbolism pop out: the holy books, the cartoons, the movies, the commercials, the symbolism on the stores. You're gonna see all these signs and symbols that just pop out around you like, damn.
It's a little scary, to be honest, because I didn't know it was so pervasive and ubiquitous.
I like how you put that, man. That's crazy. Oh man. Hey man, that's beautiful, man. Any other thoughts, space on this before we transition? All right, so here's a document that, like I say, more as I've been studying, they're familiar with this, but this is a good tool to go over George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco. This was before the Constitution. This is before the treaty. No, this is right after the treaty. 1786 was the treaty. You got the letter from George Washington pretty much summarizing, thank you for entering into a treaty with this new nation that ain't got no navy, ain't got no riches. Thank you. And by the way, sorry for missing the tribute payment. We missed the tribute payment, but stall us out because we just reorganized our government. So this is how they talking to an American sultan, the Sultan of the Americas. This is how the pilgrim crew that came over here that was trying to escape the tyranny of the brutish Moors, right? They threw a tantrum, Boston Tea Party, all that type of stuff. We know about all that. And then the British Moors through the Treaty of Paris and the Declaration of Independence, they structure why they don't want to be part of the British Moors no more. Declaration of Independence, why we're forming our own thing. Articles of Confederation, 13 colonies gonna form a union. Call it the United States. Treaty of Paris, the British Moors king over there was like, okay, you got that, man. We entered into a treaty with this new creation, right? So we need to know that information to talk about it like that, right? Because everybody's thinking it's tents and teepees, bows and arrows. That's the history before the United States got established, right? Um, so keep that in mind. As the years go on and we study this information, we can't get lost that this is brand new information for a lot of people. So let's stay tight with the concept. So it was signed in the Empire State. So New York is called the Empire State because the Empire, the headquarters was in Philly and in that area, what they call the Midwest. So a lot of our headquarters activities, administration was in these areas. I'm trying to decide if I should actually read the whole document. So now read the letter from the George Washington to the Sultan of America dated 1789 in New York, the Empire State, indicative of the fact that this North America is the Moroccan Empire, not to be confused with the Moroccan Kingdom or the Kingdom of Morocco. But this is not the French Montana crew. This is not the Middle East crew. This is ancient Morocco. So the kingdom is subordinate to an empire because there's kingdoms within empires. Multiple kingdoms make up an empire. So that's the empire over there too. It also proves the obligation of the newly formed United States of the America to the Moroccan Empire. Be mindful that the preamble states this Constitution is ordained for the United States of America by we the people of the United States, two different entities, yet indivisible and stand under the republic, not the democracy. The democracy has no backing, no guarantee of unalienable rights, no immunities, no standing that law, etc. I pretty much just summarized this letter, but whoever hasn't read this letter, please read it on their own time. I summarized it. I feel I did a good job at that. Here's the actual letter. You can also order a certified copy from the Library of Congress of this letter, or the treaty, or House Resolution 1203, amongst any document, right? But it exists, and y'all can, do y'all due diligence on that and use it as a reference point when you're talking with the people to set the tone that George Washington was talking to an emperor in America, melanated, right? And be specific, we got a name. He was talking to Sultan Muhammad ibn Abdullah. To be specific, 1789, this took place, right? So if we're talking about North Africa, because people are going to be like, oh, Morocco was over there. So what sense does this make? The United States just got their independence in America, but they're going to enter into a treaty with some Africans on the east, on the Atlantic, across the Atlantic. Why were the Pilgrims, on top of the fact, where's Morocco at if the Kingdom of Morocco didn't exist at that time? The Middle East didn't exist at that time. So what's Sultan of Morocco? You know what I mean? So keep these concepts. Oh yeah, go ahead, everybody.
Yeah. I was going to say that Morocco actually was a beachhead for barter and trade. That was more or less an outpost for us. The empire, as you know, is over here, but the Morocco, where everyone refers to where Moors are only stationed at, was nothing more than a beachhead for trading and bartering. And that's where they set up at and did all the trade throughout the Europe and all these other places around Africa and so forth. I just wanted to add that on, man. But that's where, that was more or less an outpost. I yield.
Islam, anybody got any thoughts on that space?
So since the empire is no longer like, I would say, functional, quote unquote, they can only uphold the treaty of peace and friendship, basically out of their own goodwill.
No. Treaties are international law. It takes two nations to what's the word I'm looking for? To let's say you want to man, someone help me out here. When you want to adjust a treaty or so forth, renegotiate it per se,
Ratify.
it has to be done between two nations in international law. The United States just can't simply on its own will say, well, we're not going to no longer honor this treaty. If it's still in effect, they have to by international law. And it takes two delegates to come together to make adjustments to that treaty. They just can't simply do it on their own. So this is the reason why they got to keep you out of your bloodline, your status, because those treaties, you still are awarded protection under international law under those treaties to this very day. So that's the reason why they have to have so many agents amongst us to keep you out and keep you in black status. That's the reason why it's so prevalent. They got to keep you there.
Once you leave the black status, then basically all of the treaties
still apply to you.
Okay. And they're enforceable by
They're
what court?
still enforceable.
International courts?
Yeah, international courts. The United States doesn't really have jurisdiction here per se. Actually, they're custodians over Moorish territories here in the Americas. They're actually the custodians.
While we're ignorant, right?
Right. And in fact, if we ever regain our way of government, civics, and nationality, our lands are to be turned back over to us. So this is the reason why you see that the COINTELPRO is so prevalent in keeping you in black status.
Wow. Well, my children will
Because
know.
yeah, because if you get out of that status, there's not, as Mafi related said mentioned earlier, it's res judicata, meaning the matter has been adjudged. It's very decisive cases out here that we are Moors and we can't be U.S. citizens. This is the reason why they try to invoke the whole black African American thing going on and everything, because they got to keep you within their jurisdiction. That's all federal. That's all under their federal corporate jurisdiction. Has nothing to do with nationality, has nothing to do with unalienable, inalienable rights, birthrights, nothing. All that is waived. All that is forfeited. So this is the reason why they must have you in black status constantly. That's why you bombarded with it. You know, these celebrities would never mention more out their mouth. Never.
Ever. They
Never.
lose all their money.
Never. And that's the speak of a lot of other people. They would never mention them. It's like kryptonite to them. You mention more than any of these people, they'll run from you as fast as they can, because they're not to go anywhere near that.
Right. They'll lose all their power.
Well, they have a certain lifestyle that has been awarded to them, but at what degree, at what loss, when you destroy your own people?
Mhm.
Disgusting.
Yeah, you can't straddle the defense, Like I like using Nick Cannon as a perfect example, where he tried to go hard through the turban on I'm a Moor and we the real Jews, and
They took him down quick.
who cutting your check? And they sat him down, like, and he pumped the brakes on all that, right? So
Right,
Quick.
right,
he
right.
pumped
Now,
the
why they
brakes
do
on it.
that?
And now they just diagnosed him too.
How come they did
Oh,
that?
wow.
They just diagnosed him with some, he
Uh,
admitted it, but it's just like, trying to call him crazy now and shit.
Right?
They said he's a narcissist.
Yeah, type shit where it's like, okay,
Yeah, diagnosed him as a narcissist, which is crazy. But
yep.
yeah, Nick Cannon knows what time it is. He's actually tapped in a couple of times. He a real one.
Right? But they're not, at the end of the day, if that's how he's getting paid, he's not going
Yeah.
to jeopardize how he feeding his family. That's the carrot that they dangle.
Yeah.
So we're in a tricky little situation because we have to maintain ourselves in the commercial world while our national identity basically goes against everything that is commercial.
Well, no, I'm talking about as far as like people that's in a household name on TV. Like if you're an entertainer, an NBA star, if you're a millionaire and always on TV, you can't say certain things or they're gonna cut your water off. And our people are scared of that. They like the luxury that they have. Now it's a difference if we do it organically, like you're not part of that and you just unite with the people. Back to Chinatown, Koreatown, you just simply regular person that's involved in civic affairs. You got businesses, you're involved in trade, waking your people up. You're not a part of that network. So
Facts.
you're not. What are they going to shut down? Like we're a temple. We're a people. We're a cultured people that are just doing things that any other cultured people are doing. So we're not worried about them cutting nothing off because we did it organically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So, and on top of the fact that if we stay consistent doing that, what's going to happen is as we're active dealing with the community, we're going to run across people that have a lot of people look up to them or whatnot.
Yeah.
They might not can deal with us, but they can help us financially on the low. That's why
Same.
it's still good to be active and out there, be amongst the people. They gonna just do a sincerity test like, they really, they look at the social media, they look, Khalifa Society, they really been, they really serious about uniting the people. They really putting information out there. Oh, I support this. I got 1 million for you.
Mm.
Just don't tell nobody I gave it to you. That's what
Yeah.
happens. That's what happens
Right.
along the journey. It's along the journey. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
But you
Okay.
gotta believe in it. You have to believe in this song. It ain't gonna come easy. You're gonna have to show
Yeah.
we're gonna have to show that you're worthy or that we're worthy
Right.
of where we're trying to go,
There to be a
and
depth in these matters.
Yeah, and this
I think it's
this
the greatest
fuels
opportunity for it to let people know it's a time. Everything is shifting. People getting that opportunity. All that shit is crumbling. The fake entertainment shit. It's that time. It's just that, like you said, getting the brand right, that networking right, to where it's attracted to different people that may not have been used to it.
Yeah, man. Bottom line is we need to start setting up our own industries. Period. We need to create our own blockchains, our own social media websites. We need to have our own consultations and law firms. And all. The time is now. The time is now, and all the shucking and jiving and talk, man. We got to start getting active, man. Got to start getting active because without no, I'm gonna quote Dolomite. No, I'm not gonna do that, guys. I yield that. I was gonna say something, man, but it don't add up, man.
that's all good,
mm,
man.
oh
You got something? Somebody else got something?
yeah, I was just gonna add to that too. I was like, and like you was talking, like, some of them stand where they stand, and this, but it's few of them in there that, learn and make a change. And you know what I mean? And the more they see us doing better, that would motivate some more of them to want to come and make that change too. You know what I mean? So I just want to add that on that part.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. The reason why I brought up the treaty too is because I started by saying, why would these pilgrims that came over here declare their independence from the tyranny of the British Moors? Why would they enter into a treaty with some Africans? And I'm playing devil's advocate because people, Morocco, it's not Morocco, this is America. All right. So like I put in my book, it's a couple things, but I love using this article, Article 16. In the case of war between the parties, the prisoners are not to be made slaves, but to be exchanged one for one, captain for captain, officer for officer, one private man for another. And if there shall prove a deficiency on either side, it shall be made up of the payment of 100 Mexican dollars. So when you're saying Mexican dollars as a currency, that ties you to the Americas, right? That just makes common sense, right? So which when we're saying Morocco, now another thing, Arabic or ancient tongue, Al Moroccan. English tongue, American. We're saying the same thing. We're dealing with an American sultan, Al Moroccan sultan, right? So, also when we're looking at this treaty, the people that are taught founding fathers, the usual suspects, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, are the higher ups. It's called plenipotentiary. When you look that word up, you're going to see that's the ambassadors that got elected or appointed to be their heads for the pilgrims, basically, essentially. I'm going to say it like that. The pilgrims organized amongst themselves, called their company doing business as the United States of America. They elected plenipotentiaries or ambassadors to discuss treaty negotiations with our emperor. All right. They're not talking about that in the John D. Rockefeller school system, this part of the history, because they want to make it seem like it was just tents and teepees, bow and arrow, people, low vibrational hunters and gatherers, and it wasn't no high technology. Like we didn't have the Silk Road on lock over here. Like it wasn't Taj Mahal style buildings over here. Like we wasn't going back and forth from here to China since the Olmecs and the Mayan time. Like we wasn't doing that. Because if you open the door to that space, now it's your illustrious culture. You have to think you are a slave shipped from Africa. Oh, but how these slaves start building the White House? They couldn't read and write. See, things been ain't adding up from the jump. Even before we knew this, things weren't adding up to me. When I first started learning this stuff in school, I'm like, how we slaves, but we built the White House? How we doing construction? You know what I'm saying? So, it's just a divine time to, we're in Aquarian age. The jug is up, right? So show these people Library of Congress document. Once again, I have a Library of Congress certified copy with the Library of Congress seal and a wet ink signature of this document. I've used this in court as an exhibit to assert political status on a couple of occasions. So this is nothing made up. We need to show these things to the people so we can unite. Right? We got nationality and illustrious culture. Let's unite. We brothers. Our Jamaicans, our Haitians, our Belizeans, we are the same people. Puerto Ricans, India, we are the same. Let's unite. You know what I mean? Arawaks, Tahinos, let our Puerto Rican brothers know they ain't rich Portians and Tahino Moors, Arawak Moors. Let them all know. Boricua, right? Boricua Moreno. So I think that's the scope I wanted to talk about this treaty in. But y'all can read the entire treaty for yourself when y'all get a chance. And it spells out any disputes between Moors. Let me just cover that. At least I'll cover that before I exit this part. You're going to see it's distinguishing two nations of people. If any Moor shall bring citizens of the United States. So we have Moors and United States citizens. Moors are not United States citizens. It's two separate things, right? So I want to highlight that. Any thoughts on that for our transition to the Solemn Brotherhood of the East? Oh, before I get into that, this is repetition. Any Mexican or Latino brothers that we know, let them know about El Yanga, a Moor in the 1570s in Mexico. He's a national hero of Mexico. Let people know about this brother. Let our Mexican brothers know, because this is going to raise eyebrows. They're gonna be like, oh wow. Right? So he was also referred to as a Maroon, just like our Jamaican indigenous people referred to as Maroons. And of course, that's another tag. They called our people Maroons, but that just implies that we're the original people of the land, right? So he was responsible for helping fight off the Spaniards. He's on the same footing as our brother in Haiti that helped fought off the French over there in Haiti. Spawned the Haitian Revolution, because it was all the empire, right? So we want to talk from this perspective. And look at this Moorish architecture, all in the Mayan ruins. So
That's tight.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was gonna say actually my Latino brother, he just tapped in right here as well. So he's chiming in with us.
Well, that's fire.
Red. Yeah. So it's funny. It's interesting that you just on this topic while he just tapping in. So
That's fire. It's divine.
yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We right in his neck of the woods, yeah.
Yeah. CJ, that was you? Okay, you raising your hand on accident? Like,
yeah, that's what I was just trying to tell you, yeah. So
yeah, it's divine, man. You're at the right place. Yeah, I think that's a scope that I wanted to talk about with the brother El Yaga. I always keep him queued up. He's a good link to use for our quote unquote Latino Hispanic brothers. But he's highly melanated, and it's not You know, people say Afro-Latina. I don't like saying that because that implies that some African slaves, some shipwrecked Africans just landed in Mexico in the 1500s and start mixing. No, we've been there since BC time, since the Olmecs Mayans, right? Been there. That ship to Africa stuff, that needs to be dead because that still blurs the lines to create as if we're different people. You know what I mean? The reason the skin tone got lighter is intermixing with the Slav women, which is called our harems at that time. The product of that, you're gonna have a mixed race on all parts of the planet. It's different shades. But as long as we know world history, skin tone don't matter. It's more about the allegiance. What's your allegiance to? Right. So I just wanted to add that. Any thoughts on this space before I transition to the Silent Brotherhood of the East and then ultimately close out?
My last thing would be the reference of Quetzalcoatl, his equivalence in Moorish science would be Thoth, right? The bird serpent feather thing, because he talks. It's like the same sort of dealing with the snake and the serpentine culture of rising into the medulla. I know we talked about that earlier.
Right. He's the Christ. He would be.
Right.
He represents Krishna essentially. Yeah. He represents. You know, but they try to make him spooky too, like Jesus and all that too.
But it's the same culture though, right? It's just superimposed on our Latin brothers and sisters in their cultural region.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But yeah, he represent, you know, the activation as well. As a matter of fact, the Mexican flag, that's Quetzalcoatl. That's the serpent and bird. It's still there, right? So that, and the flag, like the flag behind me is red and green. I mean, yeah, red and green. It's still, the color scheme is still, you know, tying you to the Amaracan lands, you know. Once again, you got kingdoms and nation states and tribes within empires. So Anahuita or Cherokee or Seminole, Seneca, the state of Mexico, state of Honduras. And for one, like I said, we did a demonstration a couple of weeks ago dealing with Colombia and how Christopher Columbus and Colombia is why it's called Colombia. It wasn't always called Colombia. That's a colonized term. So once we have our ancient mind frame, we're going to know, oh, that was New Granada in the 1500s. Oh, what's Granada? Oh, that's a Moorish nation state. But most people know about Granada being in Spain. But once we fell and got kicked out of Spain in the 1490s, we got exiled to where our cousins was at. We knew because we knew the empire was over here. It wasn't. They try to make it seem like this is the new world, but our people knew that this is the ancient world. That's why we got expelled from Spain. We came to South America and set up shop. It was called New Granada. Granada over there. Now it's New Granada in South America. So we just mingled with our folks and set up shop. Okay, the empire fell in Spain, but the empire wasn't just Spain. A part of the empire fell, so we came to South America and set up New Granada. All this is before it was called Colombia, right? So we need to know we just know our Moorish history. This is, you know what I mean? So the Americas was the Almoracan Empire. But yeah, any other thoughts on that space before I pop off chapter 12 of the Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood of the East? So chapter 12, Yahshua explains to Casper the meaning of silence and the wisdom of Allah in man. Now in the early morning, Yahshua came again to teach and heal. The light not comprehended shone about as though some might spirit overshadowed him. A Magnus noted this and asked him privately to tell from whence his wisdom came. And what is the meaning of the light? So somebody asking Yahshua, where did you derive your wisdom? And what is the meaning of light? And Yahshua said, there is a silence when the soul may meet its God Allah. And there the fount of wisdom is, and all who enter are immersed in light and filled with wisdom, power, and love. And Magnus said, "Tell me about the silence and this light, that I may go and there abide." And Yahshua said, "The silence is not circumscribed. It is not a place closed in with walls or a rocky steeps, nor guarded by the swords of man. Men carry with them all the time the secret place where they meet Allah. It matters not where men abide on mountaintop, in the deep valley, in the marts of trade, or in a quiet home. They may at one time fling wide the door of the soul and find the house of Allah. It is within the soul. One may not be so much disturbed by noise of business and words and thoughts of men. It goes all alone into the valley or the mountain pass. And when life's heavy load is pressing hard, it is far better to go out and seek a quiet place to pray and meditate. The silence is the kingdom of the soul, which is not seen by human eyes. When in silence, phantom forms may flit before the mind, but they are all subservient to the will. The master soul may speak, and they are gone. If you would find this silence of the soul, you must yourself prepare the way. None but the pure in heart may enter here, and you must lay aside all fears and doubts and troubled thoughts. Your human will must be absorbed by love divine. Then you will come into a consciousness of the holy breath or the truth. You are within a holy place, and you will see upon a living shrine the candle of Allah aflame. And when you see it burning there, look deep within the temple of your brain. You will see it all glow. In every part from head to foot are candles, all in place, just waiting to be lighted by the flaming torch of love. And when you see the candles all aflame, just look and you will see with the eyes of soul the waters of the fount of wisdom rushing on, and you may drink and there abide. And the curtains part, and you are where the ark of Allah rests, whose covering is the mercy seat. Fear not to lift the sacred board. The tables of law are in the ark concealed. Take them and read them well, for they contain all the precepts that man will ever need. And in the ark, the magic wand, for they contain all prophecy, lies waiting for our hands. It is the key to all hidden meanings of present, future, and past. The cherubim have guarded well for every soul this treasure box, and whoever will may enter in and find his own. Now Casper heard the Hebrew master speak, and he exclaimed, "Behold, the wisdom of Allah has come to men." And Yahshua went his way, and in the sacred grove of Sirius was met. He taught and healed the sick. So when we analyze what Yahshua was doing, giving proper perspective, to meditate, you're going within. You don't need to necessarily go to a building to meditate, pray, tap into yourself. You know what I mean? And that's what needs to happen. So you can make corrections, etc. And these candles and these flames getting lit, you gotta light that within, And by knowing this information, like I said earlier, all this stuff is supposed to ignite a flame of passion to try to unite with the people, finding savvy ways to build community, get this information out to the, like Noble Jew Ali said, the hedges and the highways with this information. Every corner, to the best of your abilities, right? You're going to start seeing great things happen over time. Any thoughts on that chapter? Okay. So I'm going to close out in prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. So let me close out the meeting and stop recording. Let's kind of see where everybody's at here.